When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Take my hat off.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moss?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's
The doctor lived next door to the janitor to the reverend and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
Good morning. First name's Doni, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul. Baby! It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I hope you get a chance to go outside. I understand there's some wind advisories in the Baltimore and the greater Baltimore area. Today's guest, interesting in the song, Dr. Thurman Zollicoffer, it always catches my ear. He talks about how we don't like poor black people. This is a black show. This is Black USA. But Adam is talking about how other people don't like black people at all. Adam Jackson, my man.
What up, Donnie? You know, it's funny. Dr. Z was actually my pediatrician for like 18 years. I didn't know he was who he was. So I saw your stuff. I was like, oh snap, that's Dr. Z.
His daddy was my doctor.
Oh wow. Man, Baltimore.
They were at Garwin Medical Center.
I saw him like all the way until I was 21.
So you know that was a black medical center.
My dentist, Dr. Fabian Desbordis, he was up there for a minute too. My parents took me to him all the way till I was like 16.
So your parents understood Black Wall Street. It's not
Absolutely.
new. It's not new to us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man.
Adam, a couple of years ago, I counted the number of hours that I'll call them legacy television stations, 13, 11, 2. I counted the number of hours that they broadcast news. I think roughly they started at 5 a.m. So that meant a 5 a.m., a 6 a.m. show, 7 o'clock on the three major networks. That's when the national news comes over. Good Morning America, right. Today Show. But throughout the day, on average, Fox did more news coverage than 13, 11, and 2. They got up earlier and they went to sleep later. And they would loop certain stories. Meaning like you feel like you have seen this story forever, and it may have only been a day and a half, but it's been in that news loop because some of us are news junkies. We wouldn't change the channel if we could. We just want to see what's going on. And it's fueled a certain thing inside of us that we may not understand, but you understand it. My media professor understood it over at Coppin. The very first thing they had us watch and I'm about to pass you the ball, was The Birth of a Nation.
Mm-hmm.
The Birth of a Nation, I believe, was 1917, filmed by D.W. Griffith.
Mm-hmm.
And it had all of these negative stereotypes of black people. Big eyes, big lips, scared.
Mm-hmm.
And these stereotypes we still face today. When I see a billionaire, Jay-Z's a billionaire, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When I see a billionaire on television asking why this group, I got one right here somewhere. Why this group, won't give me a Black Wall Street award or a Grammy. Well, he wanted a Grammy for his wife, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I got $1 billion, I don't have $1 billion. I got a couple $1 million, but we've given over 2,500 of these Black Wall. Just start your own award.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why do I want something from a group of people who steal my stuff anyway?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They not gonna respect me. Adam, what are you here to talk about today?
Well, there's a couple things I think that are really important based on what you said. You know, funny side, kind of like a sidebar for a second. Actually, yesterday I posted about one of my ancestors. His name's Alonzo Rancier. He was the first Black lieutenant governor of South Carolina. And one of the things that I found out about him, because I was just kind of reading about his life as a legislator in the South, and one of the things I actually found out about him is that in that film, Birth of a Nation, he was one of the characters, Silas Lynch, that they portrayed in the film. And in that movie, to your point, it was this portrayal of this big, you know, kind of aggressive, you know, rapist kind of like dude who was like, you know, subjecting white people to Negro rule and was like taking over the South. And this was like a response to like Reconstruction. And so for me, when you talk about narrative, story, you know, how Black people are portrayed in media, for me, it's really personal. Because that in my own family lineage, you know, someone who, for all intents and purposes, was a prominent Black person in politics in the South, even them, you know, they were portrayed in that light in Birth of a Nation. And then because of that, and because of, you know, white people's reaction to Reconstruction, one of the things that Booker T. Washington said in his book, Up From Slavery, he actually talked about an encounter that he had with my ancestor, where he said that he was walking around in with Charleston, South Carolina, and he heard some white people saying, you know, pick up those bricks, governor. So like some brick masons saying, pick up those bricks, governor. And Booker T. Washington was confused. He was like, why are you calling that Black person governor? He said, oh, that guy used to be the Black lieutenant governor of South Carolina, but now he's just here working laying bricks with us because, you know, we took him out of office. And so we got to see the ramifications of what it means when you portray Black people a certain way. And locally, for me, what that means a lot of time is Fox 45 and Sinclair Broadcasting, because more recently, we've been fighting this juvenile justice, quote unquote, juvenile justice reform in Annapolis being sponsored by Democratic Party leadership. And, you know, what they've done or what they've been proposing is that basically there's more young people who will have contact with the criminal justice system, mandating contact in the criminal justice system. And for us, even if you weaken the bill, which the bill has been weakened, even the notion that we should have more contact, young people should have more contact with the criminal justice system, that could be fatal for our people. Even just being booked and being in prison for a short period of time could be a fatal interaction for young people in the criminal justice system. But all of that has been painted by Fox 45 because they've been running these stories, to your point earlier. They've been running these stories nonstop every single day about youth committing crime. And instead of talking about the ways that we can divert young people from crime or talking about programs for young people, instead, they've been talking about incarceration as the only option.
Or how is it that they only focus on our neighborhood with young people and crime?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you look at my neighborhood, if you look at Sandtown,
mm-hmm.
does it ever dawn on, what's the name, Frosh McKenzie? Does it ever dawn on Frosh McKenzie what's the name? Frosty. Does it ever dawn on Frosty McKenzie that wow, Sandtown doesn't have a recreation center? And then does it ever dawn on Frosty McKenzie how the recreation center saved a lot of black people's lives? From what? Crime, selling dope, getting shot, shooting somebody. It was your home away from home for generations. So when your neighborhood doesn't have a recreation center, it doesn't have a release valve. And then you put something as idiotic as single lane traffic through North Avenue, through the majority of West North Avenue. And East Baltimore's got a big tote of it too. So all across North Avenue, where it used to be 2 and 3 lanes of traffic, now you got single lane traffic. I don't know about you, Adam, but after traversing that swath of land, single lane, I'm angry. I get off of there and I'm angry. I don't even know why I'm angry. I'm just angry. How could my city be so stupid?
Yeah, I've heard the same exact kind of criticism from Gwynns Falls. They've now added bike lanes, and now there's single lane traffic on Gwynns Falls too. I think a large part of the problem, as far as I'm concerned, is that for Black people, what happens is these media platforms and specifically Sinclair and Fox, what they do is they harness the worst tendencies of our community, and then they put them on display out of context. So what happens is, you have Black people who are frustrated with crime, for example. We're frustrated with crime, and people actually have had real experiences. People have been robbed, people have their carjacked, had their cars taken away from them. And so, people's genuine frustration about crime and public safety, is important. But then what happens is Fox tracks down people in our community. They get them to say the worst versions of things on air. And then it gets proposed to us like, you either want more police or less police. You want more accountability or less accountability. And the only choices that we think we have are like more tough on crime stuff, tough on crime legislation and stuff like that. So they propose like a false choice. We pick the false choice, and then they sell it back to us as if it's what we want. When in reality, when you talk to Black people, it's like it's more diverse than that.
I gotta pose this to you, Adam, and I don't even really know your take on it. Fox was behind this term limit legislation. They paid for red, black, and green signs to be in the Black neighborhood, in the Black community. Doc Cheatham and Michael Johnson were big proponents of this term limit legislation, as if the problems plaguing Baltimore have to do with term limits. I will say that I'd like to see term limits in Washington, D.C.
Right.
I'd like to see, for instance, a Mitch McConnell have to leave. But these two people, it was Euripsy Morgan and a young Black man. They were at the Lord's church talking about what term limits did, as if term limits in a majority Black city had anything to do with the plight of our city. And I argue with you that they had nothing to do with it, but they had everything to do with this storyline, which at the end of the day minimizes Black representation. Let me add in this. You may be too young to remember, but maybe not. There was a group called Acorn, and around 2007, they pushed this legislation called Question P. As hard as it was to get Black people elected, going back to the days of Judge Joe Howard and some of the early Blacks, Perrin Mitchell, who were to get elected in Baltimore, the majority black city, 63% black city, where we worked hard to get black people elected. Question P, the term limit legislation, these things attack our political strength as opposed to helping it. But we were so brainwashed. Doc Cheatham, Michael Johnson, they pushing this narrative, oh, it's term limits, not questioning maybe these are a couple of guys who are hurt that they didn't win their elections, so they don't care about anybody that's in there. So it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I actually agree with you a lot on that front. I think that there's a short-sightedness in a lot of this legislation that's going up, because I think what people don't understand is that when you impose term limits and the thing is, like, you can have both. Like, should there be a limitation on how long a person should serve in public office? Sure. But in a place like Baltimore, the place where we exert the most amount of political power.
Why you gonna cut your own damn throat?
Exactly. And people don't, and the thing is, you, like, to your point, like having one bill to pass that you didn't want to pass, or you didn't win that particular election, not even just with those two brothers, but just people in general. You know,
and they still our brothers. We ain't gonna throw them away. Right.
And the thing is, there's lots of, people do things for different reasons, but ultimately, to your point though, saying that we shouldn't, saying like all this legislation about decreasing, like having the city council, term limits, like all this kind of progressive legislation, it leaves out the fact that historically black people, this is how we've exerted power. This is how, and the thing is, working class black people here, like, while we may be excluded from the corporate sector, the nonprofit sector, the philanthropy, and electoral politics, that's where we exert the most power because of the population and because of the electorate, which is mostly black folks. And so I think that's a short-sighted thing. And I think that, again, to that point, that's been David Smith, Sinclair, Fox 45 pushing that narrative, because David Smith's objective is to, it's Negro removal. It's to get black people out of Baltimore, to make black people, to portray ourselves as savages on their platforms, and to also at the same time dilute our power, so that way, even if power is taken away from us, we can't retrieve it because we've cut our own throat. And so I think people are missing that whole, it's like we're so frustrated that we're now advocating for things that actually hurt us without knowing that it's hurting us, and doing it at the behest of a billionaire, someone who, for all intents and purposes, they just want to gather power in Baltimore because that's what they want to do, and for no other reason.
What happens when a black mother goes on Fox and says, "Lock my child up"?
That's the thing. I feel like I'm in the minority sometimes, because I'm like, yeah, we have to be able to grapple, because, like, this is the thing that Democrats are bad at doing. They're bad at talking about public safety, because they always say that, they toe that party line. Like, well, we got to hold people accountable, but we got to make sure we lock people up. But it doesn't really address people like that mother's immediate concern. Like, my child is, committing crime. I think they should go to jail. And it's our responsibility to talk to people in our community to say that, number one, locking your child up can have a fatal impact on them.
Damn right.
It'll actually like make them a hardened criminal, because now they'll be in the criminal justice system. And we shouldn't allow our folks to afford that narrative. But the problem is that Democrats are bad at talking about it, because I feel like they feel pressure to not, to kind of go both ways on the issue. Whereas for us, like, it's our job to say to each other, like, we know that doesn't work. We know that locking your kid up won't work. But what are other options that we could pick from that could potentially support your child without necessarily for them having to go to jail? And those options even aren't even on the table for people. It's almost like I either send them to jail so they can learn their lesson, or they can stay out of jail but continue to commit crime. But that's a false choice. That's a Fox 45 special. That's like they're making us make that choice when that's not the only choice on the table.
Now, David Smith, these are the same people that own the Atlas Group.
Mm-hmm, right.
That told the black mother who had her little boy down at one of their restaurants, and the host, or maitre d', said, you're not properly dressed. Your child's not properly dressed. And she said, look, there's a white kid dressed just like my kid. What's the difference?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Alex, that's his nephew. That's David's nephew, and I think
And
David,
they
he's like
all
one of
they
the big
all came out
investigators.
of
Yeah.
Boys Latin, is my understanding. That's where they went to school, Boys Latin.
And one thing I've heard about Alex Smith is that people are afraid to to make these arguments about him in public because he has access to Fox 45 and that whole media conglomerate. When in reality, it's like we should not let interlopers and rich white people come into our community and do whatever they want simply because they have nice restaurants in the top floors of hotels or nice buildings in Harbor East. Like we
I
should
bet
be
you if
able
black
to
people
call them out.
stop supporting those restaurants, they won't be top notch anymore.
And I just feel like ultimately, like, what is more important to us? Because I feel like what happens is we're not often reflective when it comes to these things. We're just like, well, it's okay. It's okay for them to not allow us in their restaurants. It's their restaurant. It's like you live here. Without you, they don't exist. Without your patronage, they don't
That's why I
exist.
want to commend you and Davon for staying at it. Now I think I'm older than you a little bit, but for the soldiers a decade or so behind me, or a couple decades, decade and a half, you are towing the line, and you must continue to toe the line. And your job is not done until there's a leaders of a beautiful struggle behind you.
That's right.
That are 10 to
That's
15
right.
years younger than you.
Mhm.
And you will have to mentor them, you will have to coach them, and your job isn't done until they pass the ball. So my job isn't done with you until I see my grandson,
Mhm.
and then your grandson in this media space, because without these voices, other people are speaking for us.
That's right.
And they can't do it.
Mhm.
I gotta ask you now, Fox owns the Baltimore Sun.
Mhm.
So just promise me one thing. You will not let Armstrong Williams run away with the stagecoach. I mean, that day he had PM Smith on stage, and PM was calling everybody the N-word. I'm still, and then of all people, Armstrong is calming him down. Adam, you can't let those kinds of things happen.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm actually tremendously disappointed in Pastor Smith because I grew up in his church. A lot of my family went to his church,
He
and
had
so
a
I'm
bad day.
actually well. It's like over time, it's the same thing. Fox recruits black people that are frustrated, black people that share the same frustrations. But the problem is that when they put forward what's the next step, it's always like, well, we got to lock them back up. They got to go back. It's like this narrative of, well, we got to go back to how things used to be. And I don't think black people here remember how things used to be. Because if you remember how things used to be, you would not want to go back to that time period.
There was a time we shared it at the Black Wall Street last night for older people. I'm 58, so I'm talking about people, say 68. There was a time when we did not live above North Avenue. And on the west side, we did not live west of Fulton Avenue. We didn't live on Smallwood. We didn't live on Warwick. Those were white neighborhoods. Young people today don't realize Baltimore is the home of segregation. Going back to 1910, where the mayor was J. Barry Mahul over there in Roland Park, then white people didn't want blacks moving into their community, nor did they want whites moving into the black community. That's how insidious and how cunning these racists in Baltimore were and are.
That's right.
This is the home of apartheid. Baltimore. Who knew?
That's right. And even when people talk about the public safety piece, like I remember as a young person when O'Malley was mayor and how many people I knew were swept up in the criminal justice system because of his policies. And people forget. It's like, no, I want to go back. I want to go back to that time. It's like, no, you don't.
They ran up on me for riding a bike without a headlight. They ran up on me like I robbed a bank, shawty.
That's ridiculous.
Propelling a bicycle within the city limits without a headlight. Shawty, they jumped out on me at the Avenue Market like I robbed and beat somebody. His name was Bug-Eye. I don't care. He still ran here. Officer Weems, a black man, running up on his own people. It's like, damn, dog. You the kind of black cop that make black people mad at cops in general. Now, we got some buttholes around here, granted. But, dude, you running up on a man on a bike?
Right.
What crime is he possibly committing?
Or people like sitting on their steps. You know, like I'm sitting on my steps, I'm walking.
They got real petty with it. Martin O'Malley. That's why his wife ain't become attorney general, because people didn't want to see nothing with O'Malley on it. But he's still around. His fingerprints still on stuff. We still see his fingerprints on stuff. In many ways, Brandon, which is a descendant of Stephanie Rollins Blake, is a grandchild of O'Malley. Truth be told. That's how that thing went down. Wouldn't have had no Stephanie Rollins Blake if it weren't for O'Malley. And wouldn't have had O'Malley if it weren't for Stephanie's father, Pete Rollins, who said, make my daughter mayor. Next thing you know, Sheila got hemmed up on gift cards. Speaking of which, any thoughts of seeing Sheila Dixon on Fox when 4 years ago they were throwing bricks at her?
I mean, you know, I'm not sure what was the negotiation, you know, because I remember, I mean, to your point, I remember how they treated Sheila Dixon when she was mayor. And then after the allegations came out, like how they, you know, raked her across the coals. So I was pretty shocked when I saw that, like, oh, Fox 45 is essentially endorsing, and Sinclair Broadcasting is endorsing and giving her money.
And Theroux was nowhere in the picture.
Right. Exactly. So for me, it was like actually, like I was like really confused. And so I'm actually, you know, super suspicious about what that means for what she's giving up in her, what if she became mayor, if she be, what would she be giving up? I know that at this point, at least $100,000 or $133,000 has been given to her campaign by David Smith and his associates. So I, like everybody else, I have questions. And Theroux Vignarajah, you know, is a plant. You know, he's a plant from Fox 45 and Sinclair Broadcasting. I'm not sure why he's running. But ultimately, these are candidates at this point. You know, when I see the policies that David Smith is advancing, I see the candidates that he's supporting. He's even at I think like last week, there was an article put out where he talked about how he controls the state legislature and said that he's got polls out on Senator Bill Ferguson and Speaker Adrian Jones, and how, you know, when he saw polls on their positions on things, and how he made them back down when Mackenzie Frost, you know, confronted Speaker Jones, and how she changed her position on juvenile justice because Mackenzie Frost popped up and started putting a microphone in her face, and then the next day she changed her position. Because he says he's plugged in, because he said he's, quote, plugged into Annapolis and the administration. So that tells me, is like, you telegraphing your moves. I know what you're doing. You're already talking to people who you see as allies in the administration and in Annapolis. You're using that as an opportunity to track people down, to make black people, to paint black people as corrupt. And now you have a political objective of making sure that you can push these people out of office. But no one's criticizing them openly. Typically, what people say about David Smith is just that, well, he's racist and Fox is racist, which is an incomplete criticism. It's like, it's not just about racism, like him being racist and not liking black people. His media platform is organized against the black community. It's actually a war with political propaganda on black people. So people like Sheila, I see her as tool. I see her as a tool of David Smith. You know, people like Theroux as tools of David.
I know you got to go, but what about Armstrong Williams?
Armstrong Williams is another tool. I mean, actually, I don't know if you saw. I could actually pull up the video here if you want me to. He had that interview with Armstrong Williams about Fox 45, because Davon, for folks who don't know, Davon Love is part of LBS as well, and so he went on an interview with Armstrong Williams to talk about rites of passage in Baltimore, like how to prevent black boys from getting involved in negative things in our community, how we can support them through certain spiritual and cultural practices. But they go on the first question after the first question, he was criticizing him for the platform, like Sinclair, advancing these racist narratives about black people. And what I didn't like about it was that Armstrong Williams' response was just real like, well, is it just media? Like it was just like this punk out response to like, it's like you're a part of it. It's you. Like you're the person on TV saying these things. You're the person writing the stories. It's not like you're just a passive employee. Like you are co-owner of the Sun. You on Fox 45 every single day. So it's like you're part of the reason. You're part of the problem. And he didn't admit to it. And the thing is, I don't know what he thinks about black people personally. I don't know if he loves black people or not, or if he's self-hating or not. What I do know is that he's a big part of the problem, and that he's a tool and a shill of David Smith and Sinclair. And that, we should be attacking him. We should be treating him like an enemy, like we're treating the rest of them. Because that's how he carries himself.
Sounds like a sellout to me. Thank God for black media. Tell them how people can follow you, Adam. I realize you got to go. We don't want to rob your time, but how can people follow you and stay in touch with you, getting all of those good things?
If you want to follow my organization, Leaders of the Beautiful Struggle, you can go to our website at www.lbsbaltimore.com. You can follow me on social media at Smart Black Man, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, my email is adam@lbsbaltimore.com.
Good deal. Adam, thank you for joining us this morning. Keep hope alive.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Donnie.
Yes, sir. Got a couple of comments we're going to share with you, and then we're going to get on up out of here. It's from Dale Wallace. Fox 45 is endorsing Sheila because she will speak out against Brandon Scott now. Remember, she endorsed Brandon Scott when he became mayor. Yes, why? We do remember that. That's why Hogan can't be a senator. I'm not following you on that, Dale Wallace. And the Baltimore Banner has been going at the new owners of the Baltimore Sun strong over the past few weeks. The Baltimore Banner, have they really earned our respect? They're the new kid on the block. We've seen their political endorsements. Are they any better, Byron Deese? Do check out your black media in Baltimore, including the Baltimore Times, the Baltimore Afro, and of course, BeMoreNews.com. BeMoreNews.com is currently undergoing a transformation. We're bringing in AI to the network, and we will be promoting a brand new portal, BeMore.news. Frank Johnson is reminding us to have you follow us on social media. And as Charles Robinson would have me promote Unapologetically Black, Donnie Glover autobiography. We talk about the interrelationship of politics and economics. Now, Dale, you have gone too far. Let me help you out. Both Ehrlich and Hogan put more money, and my second book, I Am Black Wall Street, both available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Actually, Dale, it's Democrats who have done less for Baltimore City than Hogan. When I look at West North Avenue and Freddie Gray and all of these Democratic elected officials who showed up at Penn North, and not a damn thing has happened at Penn North since then, since 2015, man, have several seats. Coppin got more money from Ehrlich than it ever got from all of the Democrats combined, Dale Wallace. I thought you would know that. I promise you I will. But Coppin, Dale Wallace, got more money from Ehrlich, expanded from Baker Street all the way to Gwynns Falls. That never happened. And I love Pete Rollins, but Pete Rollins didn't do a lot by Coppin. If you've not been to Morgan, Morgan has gotten a lot of money from Democrats and Republicans as of late. And both of those campuses look really well. Do inboxes, Donnie at BeMoreNews.com, or you can just call me 443-858-2684. Thank you to all of the advertisers to keep this going. Frank Johnson, we really have to get you and get this show back on television. That's what I think. Frank, we've let you do the family thing, but it's time, we let your little babies grow up, but it's time to get you back in the fold. We need to be back on television. And that's a plug for the future Donnie Glover show. Frank put our first show on television, And I think it's about time that we get back to it. Anyway, up the day, down tomorrow, do your day, and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.